Welcome to the Craft of Coaching podcast, where we dive into what it truly takes to become a skilled, confident life coach. I'm your host, Kate, head of the CLCC, or Certified Life Coach Collective, an ICF-Accredited Level 1 coach training program. We combine courage, coaching, and community to offer you more than just a training program, but a life-changing experience where you use your own personal transformation as the learning ground for supporting your clients. On this podcast, we explore how you can use coaching skills to support your clients or expand your own growth, all grounded in evidence-based coaching practices. Learn more about our program and get free resources for becoming a life coach at teamclcc.com. And now, here's today's episode. All right, this is a little intro for today's Craft of Coaching guest, Andrea Scher. You can learn more about her at Andrea, Andrea, Scher, SCHER.com. Andrea is such a multi-potentialite when it comes to coaching. She is a deep coach. She's done incredible work. She leads retreats. She's written books. She's created workshops, so many different things. And if you have ever felt like as a coach, you have to be just one thing, a coach, and that's it, Andrea's body of work will show you that that is just not the case. So we're going to dive in here and get down with Andrea Scher and hear about her thoughts about the state of the coaching industry, growing as a coach, and I am very excited for you to check out her website and see what she is up to. Let's get going.
For the people that you work with, and I know that you work with people in several different capacities, what would you say is a general theme or something that's really common in terms of what they tend to be struggling with?
Let's see. So, they tend to be struggling with what I'm struggling with. That's my impression of it, which is often self-compassion is number one. This sort of core belief that we're not enough, that lives underneath everything, is really kind of universal in the communities that I work with. In fact, we just did an exercise. I'm teaching a class right now called Cultivating Everyday Magic. And the exercise that I had people do is to really check in with themselves and ask, what do I most need to hear right now? And then, and actually write it on their arm in Sharpie. So that I'm lovable, that I'm loved, that I am capable, whatever it is for them. And for a lot of the people, it was that I'm enough. And you probably see the same thing in your work, Kate. There's this thing underneath all of our fears and our, lack of confidence, which points to this thing of we fundamentally don't believe we're enough.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's just amazing how many people walk around with that. It's really a testament to how resilient we are as human beings, that
Right.
our psychology can absorb so many messages of not being enough, and yet we all are walking around in the world, going to jobs and raising kids.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And of course it doesn't, it's not like it affects us every moment of our lives or that we're thinking about it, but there's a way that it also runs the show in ways that we are not aware of. And
Mm-hmm.
It shows up in sort of obvious, compare and despair on social media kind of things. You see your friend's house or their family or whatever, and it all just looks so perfect over there. And you're like, God, why am I so messed up over here in my scrappy little house? And, all that. There's that thing. And there's also just this way that we walk around pretending a little bit, pretending we're okay, pretending we have it together in whatever way we think we're supposed to have it together. And so I as a public service to my community, I like to show hey, not all together over here, kind of freaked out, kind of, whatever. I like it when people can be a little messy.
Mm-hmm. I would think then that this means that a core part of your work with people has to be getting conscious about patterns, because compare and despair, I know that anytime I've gotten caught in that pattern, it's initially not conscious. It feels really real that, like,
Yeah.
me over here messed up, them over there got it figured out.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. Right. It's not like you get over it completely,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, well, I mentioned self-compassion. I know that's something that's important in your work too. That's really where you have to go, I think, to cultivate this kind of ground, this ground of compassion and this ground of self-love that can hold you even when you're having those thoughts. It's like you actually believe in your own goodness even more than you believe those thoughts.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So one way that I've been practicing that, so there's just a little bit of a story there. So I was really allergic to self-love, like as not even as a concept, just like those words made me sort of cringe, like, oh, self-love. It's like, it made me think of like hugging yourself, doing self-hugs. I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to do a self-hug. Please don't make me do that. And also inner child work made me feel the same way, which is to say it made me feel really vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
And I had this realization after I got back from Bali recently. I was teaching in Bali this spring and had a real reckoning with myself. Actually, for the second year in a row, Bali just like wants to smack me down and tell me there are places in you that are, that you don't embrace and you don't love, and we're going to show them to you. It's going to be painful, but we're going to show them to you so that you have an opportunity to heal and soften and befriend those places that are so hard to look at. And so I actually am probably not going to Bali next year because it's so hard.
You're like, I need a break.
Yeah, I do. I need a break from all those parts. But it was so beautiful because when I got back from Bali this time, I really continued my practice of I got into a kind of a habit of meditating, which was so nice. And immediately when I came home, I was checking Insight Timer, and I was like, oh, self-love. Let's find something around self-love. I think that's what's at the heart of all this stuff I'm struggling with. And I came upon Sarah Blondin's meditations, the Live Awake podcast. And what I listened to was this gorgeous meditation where she has you put your hand on your heart and you say, I love you and I'm listening. And just that, like the somatic sense of your hand on your chest, like for me, that's where everything lives, is right there in my chest. And just to feel like that skin on skin on my chest immediately has this sort of like, oh, I feel a little tender in that place. And it feels very friendly. It feels very caring. And then saying those words, I love you and I'm listening. Like I'm willing to hear and feel whatever you've got. It's okay. And that has totally transformed my life. I started doing this meditation every single day. And then in just random moments in the car, I'll just like put my hand on my heart and close my eyes and say, I love you and I'm listening. And I don't know if I'm talking to my inner child. I don't know if I'm talking to I don't know if it's my higher self talking to my earth girl self or what, but it's really like befriending myself in this beautiful way. And it's such a simple practice. But I think it's really growing my capacity for self-compassion in a way that, all those stories about I'm not good enough and I'm broken and I'm damaged goods, and if anyone knew how fucked up I was, it would run the other way. All that stuff kind of quiets down because this is more true and this feels more real.
Well, what I love about what you just shared is that, in addition to the fact that this is the Craft of Coaching podcast, so it's all about like other coaches who are listening to this, other people who are interested in coaching listening to this, going, how do you actually work with clients? What's the craft? In addition to the fact that this practice could be given to a client and be enormously beneficial, I really hear you speaking to the necessity of us as practitioners doing our own work and how essential
Yes.
that is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, both in being able to really empathize in a real way with what your clients are going through. And it's like, oh, yeah, I know that place in me very intimately too. So when your client comes to you and is like, wow, I'm really in this like dark shame spiral of these thoughts, if you haven't really gotten intimate with yourself in that particular way, you're not going to totally know what they mean. Maybe intellectually be like, oh, well, don't be so hard on yourself, or that sounds like your inner critic. But it's a little bit like a technician, but it just feels a little removed. But when you really get it and you've been intimate with it and you're practicing it, there's a way that you come together as equals. You come together as just on that really human level of like, yes,
Mm-hmm.
I get it. I see this, and this is what's helped me. And I guess that's the kind of teacher and coach I am. Is I'm a storyteller, and I'm a truth teller and a storyteller, and that's how I like to connect with people and heal. Be a force of healing.
I think there's such importance in coaching as a craft, in not trying to be the guru. And that's not the way all coaches practice. In my own training program, we definitely have the conversation about not trying to be the guru for your client and really creating rapport from that place of co-creating the relationship, and we're equals in the relationship. But for sure, I've heard coaches who, they think that the best way to support a client in that moment of feeling like you're not enough is to, like, I don't know, like, bring up the evidence for why the client must be enough, or, to contradict that. And I think it's a tender thing. And it requires our own vulnerability to be willing to actually meet the client in the emotional space where they are, instead of trying to be like, I'm just about the light, I'm the high vision. No, to the dark parts. Yeah.
Yeah, which is a kind of spiritual bypass, right?
I think it is. I mean, we're a little rogue,
and
maybe, but I think it totally is. Yeah.
Yeah. And also I just want to add too that in the coaching, container scenario, maybe you're not telling them this long story that I just told you, but you're saying, do I have permission to lead you through a little exercise right now? I want you to get really quiet. I want you to put your hand on your heart. I want you to say these words to yourself, and then tell me what shows up. What are you hearing? And really be with them in that practice. That can be very tender. And so it's not like you have to talk about yourself, because I know that's like in therapy, you're supposed to be kind of invisible in a certain way, right?
The therapist is supposed to be kind of invisible in some disciplines, for sure.
Right. And then in coaching, it's it's a little it's different. But I remember in my coaching training, for the first sort of year, you were not really supposed to do anything but ask questions and listen and reflect, and lots of useful things. But you weren't supposed to give advice or really insert yourself into the mix. So I just want to offer that too. If it doesn't feel right to be sharing your own stories, just being able to really understand the experience of your clients is so valuable. And what's awesome is we're all human, and we've all had hard experiences, and we get to use that. We get to use whatever suffering we've had in our lives to the benefit of the people we're working with.
Absolutely. Oh, it's so true. And I mean, I'm, in the psychotherapeutic realm, I'm a huge fan of Carl Rogers. I've read any number of his essays, and he came from a person-centered perspective, and he was all about how do I like be a human with another human? Like he really wanted to
Mm,
eradicate the Freudian model that was heavily practiced in the 1960s when he became a therapist, which was about, the therapist is kind of like there was a hierarchy, I think, to the
yeah.
way that practice was happening. And I think it's so important. I'm with you. I'm like, I want to work with my coach and really know that they don't just have like 5 tips for how to counteract despair, but they've actually like been in despair before. They've touched that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And are actually willing to be with you in real time if that's what the moment calls for, you
Mhm.
know,
Mhm.
which it's like a willingness to be with someone else in their vulnerability. And that takes some courage, and it takes some capacity. We grow our capacities to do that, I think.
Mhm. Totally. Yeah. Well, I know that one of the ways that you work with people is you put on a lot of classes. And I'm just realizing I want to like kind of ask this question in the moment. If it doesn't go anywhere, I can edit it out later. But I have this desire to ask because like when I think of Andrea, I think of magic and whimsy and delight and like
Mm.
throwing the shackles off of creativity. I think of big permission slips. And I'm
Mm.
just so curious, like, of all the exercises or practices that you've ever given to classes in your group coaching experiences, do you personally have a favorite?
Ooh, in the realm of magic and whimsy and delight.
Well, we don't have to even stay in that particular realm. That's just what I think of when I think of
Mm.
you, but maybe there's another one that you're like, actually, Kate, here's my exercise for despair and darkness. Like it could be anywhere. I'm just so curious in this moment about like of all these wonderful adventures that you send people on, which one happens to be your favorite?
Well, the one that's showing up that's coming to mind right now is something that I did in the last class I taught, which was called Make Your Own Magic. Very similar to the Cultivating Everyday Magic. They're both like 21-day. I call that it's like creative play and stealth blessings. So we're
Hmm.
going out on little secret kindness missions. And one of them, which was so much fun, I collaborated with Sherry Reichert Galul, who I think you might know actually.
Uh-huh. I do.
And yeah, and we did a bubble flash mob at Dolores Park in San Francisco.
What is a bubble
And
flash mob?
I was hoping you would ask. So basically, oh my God, it's like so much bang for your buck, my friend. Okay, so you arrive at Dolores Park or some other wonderful park in your area where lots of people just naturally go on like a Saturday or a Sunday. And you get lots of little bubble containers. I think you can order them online, just like little containers of bubbles that you can blow.
Hmm.
And we arrived and we had my kids, we had all these other people passing out little containers of bubbles to every single person we saw at the park. And we said, okay, at exactly 11:11, you're going to start blowing these bubbles, but do not blow them a moment sooner than that. And they're like, okay, got it. And this was like 10 minutes before that, so it's not like they had to think about it too much. And so at exactly 11:11, this entire park in the middle of the Mission in San Francisco just erupted in bubbles. And it was so beautiful. And I think it was really special for me in a lot of ways. But one of the ways is that my son, who's almost 11, Ben, is like, I'm already in that realm of like, okay, mom is super uncool and I don't even know what she does for her work, but it's probably really stupid or, like that. Or not stupid, but, and so he got to really be in on something like part of my work that is just so much my spirit. And he was very resistant to going. But you just could not help yourself. It was so delightful and so fun. And kids just started swarming around us and everyone started to kind of gather in the middle of the park. And it was just pure delight. And it cost us, nothing. And it created this experience of connection and magic that was just, there's nothing better.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Yeah, because the thing too is that it's not just about the coaching that you do with one-on-one client or the coaching that you do through a course. It's also about how that person goes out into their life and does the thing that maybe they feel a little silly about doing, but that inspires delight. And having that ability to connect with a community. And that's what I'm hearing you describe in there.
Yeah, exactly. And I think I'm very much an action person. I like, when I teach a course, I don't want to talk too much. I want to give people just enough information and just enough inspiration so they can actually have an experience in their own life. Mm-hmm. So I like to, create, wonderful little, really easy to do prompts. I mean, that one was actually the most elaborate prompt in the whole class. Mm-hmm. But like really fun, easy things. Like in this current class, I had people choose a superhero name and then use it at a cafe that they went to that day, and have like the cafe person, like the barista, like write it on the cup, and then they photographed it. And just, I think we just need to step out of our little universe. And it might seem like, well, how is choosing a superhero name going to change my life? But I actually believe that those things do, because they sort of, they redirect our attention toward like, oh, there are other things to think about. And there's like other planes of awareness, really. And like I can tap into magic and joy and wonder by choice, So I get very passionate. I'm realizing I'm very passionate about this topic. As I'm talking to you, I'm getting very excited.
I love it. Well, it's really about releasing self-consciousness. And if somebody's going to take the big step of going, this marriage doesn't work for me anymore, or this job has to change, or it's time for me to like actually pitch myself in the name of my big dream. Like those are like very big steps to take. And if somebody has that practice with releasing self-consciousness on a small scale, like, a bubble flash mob, like that becomes the stepping stone that builds toward the kind of courage that can be practiced in those moments when the challenge is a lot larger.
That is so true. And also, it looks from the outside, when you're on the outside of something, like when you're on the outside of a bubble flash mob, let's just say, it's like, oh my God, look at those women. They're so amazing. They did this thing and it's so wonderful. And it's like, I wish I was somebody like that. And it's like, guess what? These were just normal people who decided to do something kind of wacky that day, or they decided to like put on a funny hat and have an adventure. Like it really is always a normal person who's a little bit afraid that it's going to, not work out or it's going to be stupid or whatever. But they went for it anyway. Mm-hmm. And now they get to have a story, and other people get to have a story. And so I think that's the other thing that it does. It sort of demystifies the things that people do in the world. They're just normal people who decided to do it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. They're just normal people who decided to do it. I love that. I love that. I love that. Well, thank you so much for being a guest and sharing some of your brilliance on the topic of how you practice the craft of coaching. And I'm just so honored to have had you here today.
You are so welcome. Thank you for having me.
All right, that's it for today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. Before you go, would you help us out and take a moment to give us a rating in iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you're listening? It really helps us get the word out to other listeners. And before you go today, would you like free resources to support your coaching journey? Whether you're considering becoming a coach or you want advanced coach skills training, access our coaching resource library at teamclcc.com. Again, that's teamclcc.com. Can't wait to connect with you. And again, thanks for listening.